for cafecito, time for cafecito, time for cafecito break. Join us, take a sip. It's time to wait. Hurry on up, we've got people to shake. Time for cafecito, time for cafecito, time for cafecito break.
It's time for Cafecito Break. Thank you for joining us today for this Monday evening New York's Freedom Fighters podcast. Today, our conversation is going to be focused on the rising frustration in New York City over Mayor Mamdani's shifty words and policy positions. Share, like this show, and feel free to comment. And here we are. Hello, everyone. I'm Rosangel Pérez, one of the Pérez sisters of Cafecito Break, live with my co-hosts Mark and Cozy. And at this time, I'll pass it on to Mark.
Hello, fellow freedom-loving Americans. Mark Franway here, former city council, state assembly, and U.S. Senate candidate. Could have won those elections, but the problem is the Board of Elections and the Campaign Finance Board are communists, and they cheat, as we will discuss later on in this episode with Mayor Manny Petty and the shenanigans that went on during his election, Trump talking about the 2020 election recently, and a lot of other topics to talk about. But before we get into all that, let me introduce fellow freedom fighter, the one and only Cozy's Wellness.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. We're going to have a cool show for you guys. We're going to be talking about all the latest stuff in New York politics and beyond. So thank you for joining us. Cozy here, former healthcare worker that was proudly fired for refusing the COVID vaccine. And now I'm free as a bird. So take it away, Rose Angel.
Let's start with our first video, in which the subject matter is elections. And
don't know whether Mamdani won the mayoral race.
And we're going to start that again. And that is Marley Hornick speaking to, I believe, Sid Rosenberg. Is that correct, Cozy?
Yes.
Okay. And check this out. This is alarming information regarding the mayoral election that we just had.
I actually don't know whether Mamdani won the mayoral race, and I'm not here to say that he didn't. The problem we uncovered is that the New York City and the New York State boards of elections have no idea if Mamdani won the mayoral election either. Let's look at their official records. Did they or did they not qualify the voters?
That's a fair question. So what did the data actually tell you?
Well, the shocking news said, and nobody better than you to break this story.
Okay.
7% of the voters in that election do not exist.
They don't exist.
They don't exist.
They could be dead.
No.
They're not even illegals. They just don't exist.
No, they don't exist. They never existed. They don't exist now. They won't exist in the future. They're not in utero. They're not dead. They don't exist. We also found that 6% of the voters have social security numbers that the SSA, the official government website, calls impossible and invalid. So they have fake social security numbers, but they're voting in New York City and New York State elections.
But if you assume that Mamdani got every one of that 7%, he still wins.
Right. So here's the issue. His margin of victory is 207,000 votes. We found over 230,000 votes, and we have another 1.2 million voters to study. So out of 2.2 million voters, we studied about 1 million of them, and we found more votes that are apparently illegal than his margin of victory. Again, the issue is not whether or not Mamdani won. The issue is whether or not the boards of elections in New York are actually counting fair elections so that we are properly represented as we are constitutionally granted.
So there you have it.
I want to touch on this first. I want to touch on this first, if you don't mind.
I just want to finish reading the little stats. I've put my glasses on for this. 7% of New York City's voters do not exist. 6% have fake social security numbers. 10% didn't even live in the city. FBI and U.S. Attorney are now investigating. And this is Marley Hornick, interviewed by Sid Rosenberg. Okay, Mark.
Okay, so people are wondering, like Sid Rosenberg said dead, and that's the assumption, something like that. But when she says not exist, what happens is, and I know this for a fact, and I knew this years ago, the communists that work at the Board of Elections can go into the system and register a new voter, and that person does not, they just make up Joe Schmo who lives on 123 I'm a communist lane, and Brooklyn, whatever zip code they want, to put new voters out there so that they can make that person vote for who they want them to vote for. And I know this for a fact. I'm not going to say how I know, but I knew this for a fact for years that they do this in the Board of Elections, the communists that work there. I can't say how I know, but I knew this for years. And unfortunately, fortunately, it's being exposed publicly now. And somebody's actually doing the research and proving that these people don't exist. The Social Security numbers are not real. They're not real people. They're just fake names, and you don't need an ID. You don't need an ID to show up to vote, but you could say you're Joe Schmo living on Communist Lane or whatever the case may be. So they found elaborate ways to cheat for a long time. Going back to my election, really quick, they mailed out ballots to every single Democrat that had, that was registered, whether they requested it or not. And that's not supposed to be the way it was done. It was only supposed to be if they were requested. They ended up sending out 2 ballots per person, which screwed things up even more. And they end up taking some of these ballots from the mail, filling them out for people that they're not going to vote. And that's how they cheated in my election. I went and asked for the IP addresses of those people that supposedly requested for a ballot online. The Board of Elections did not expect me to ask that question. The following year, they said people who work at the Board of Elections are no longer allowed to request ballots for people who call in. They try to bullshit and say these people called in and they filled it out for them online. No, they went down the voter list and filled it out for people so that people would go and get them. That's one of the ways they cheat. Now they cheat even more by just making voters up, because they're the ones that are supposed to verify that the person is real.
What are you
But they're
talking about,
not.
Mark? There's no such thing as election fraud. You got to be a lunatic. Listen, these people get
Yeah.
caught left and right. We have
My tinfoil hat. I forgot my
James O'Keefe.
tinfoil hat. Oh no.
Listen, James O'Keefe caught it on camera. People get paid. This is crazy. We have these stats right here, which are real stats. 7% of voters do not exist, right? Like Mark just broke it down. 6% fake social security numbers. So that margin of victory was not a lot, right? What did he win by, like 7%? Was it, Mark? Do you remember this last mayoral election? Was it 7%?
I think it was more than that. It was more
Okay,
than 7%.
okay, but let's say it's around. But it's
7%
close
of
to
the
that.
total number of votes.
Yeah.
7% of the total number of votes, like the total, that's different than the margin of victory. But
Okay, whatever it is,
regardless,
if you were to add up the 7% and the 6% with the fake social security numbers, that's 13%,
that
right? Mamdani
that's
didn't
no,
win
that's
by that
combined.
much.
That's combined 7%, 6% of that.
Yes.
6 out of the 7%. It's just 7%. It's not 13%. The Social Security, but she only looked into 1 million voters. There's still
Correct.
1.2 million voters that they haven't even
Looked at,
went into detail with. Yeah, so they're going to find more than that.
which means to me, which tells me that if you continue in that proportion, right? If they found this much in that 1 million that they looked at, right? And then there's another like million and something left. That means most likely those percentages are going to raise. Anyway, you got to be brain dead to believe that the election is pretty like clean and nothing goes on. I mean, look, 400 voters in New Jersey, right? Something just went down where apparently there was a glitch. Okay, there's so much phoniness going around. Okay, the elections are always rigged. It's sad. It's terrible. The only way you
And
can
how you
win,
could bet on elections was make them even more rigged.
yeah, and the only way you can win is if you win by a landslide. Basically, it guarantees you. And even that, we don't know. We don't know. It's all a freaking theater show.
I spoke to somebody at these rallies that said if you win by more than 10%, then they usually don't find a way to cheat because it's a lot harder and it's a lot easier to get caught. I was
Makes
ahead by
sense.
9%, so I was ahead by 9%. So apparently I missed the threshold. I should have been ahead by 10% in order for the lead to stick. But
Rose
um,
Angel, what are your thoughts?
I would like to present some videos more on this subject because there are people out there that are obviously this is old news for them, but then there are new folks that are only watching mainstream. And some of the things that we're covering it more because when mainstream does, they're just presenting it to you with a slight. Trump had an address the other day in which he alluded to this, and then I want to move and pivot and talk more about New Jersey because that came right after that. And so, what if we're pulling back and we're seeing the big picture? Absolutely, elections are on everybody's minds, and the whether or not they are safe, and we all know that. And this is why people who are listening are like, this is why I don't vote. Why are you guys asking us to go vote? We never told you the system was perfect, but we do say to get involved and get engaged, and many people do that. So let's see this. This is just a little highlight of a few of the things that Trump said in his 2020. I mean, his address to the nation. Trump confirms interference in the 2020 election.
First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. It gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. Documents show that during this period, dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation, and this is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama to be burned. It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be at a different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that was supposed to burn the bags.
That's just a little snapshot. Of course, some of the mainstream networks refused to carry this address to the nation because they wanted to review what Trump was going to say and then disseminate it for our ears because, we're a little sensitive, I guess, and maybe we don't understand. And if you didn't learn for 2020, Americans don't know how to do their research, and when we do, they do get mad at that. So it's a little confusing, but this is where we're at.
Yeah, I
Imagine
mean
that.
the
Imagine that they treat us this way, like, oh, we're not going to cover this. Like, how dare you, right? This is the president of the country. No matter you hate him or love him, present the information. Just record him. And if he says something stupid, make fun of him, but present the information. We have brains and we can decide whether it's fake news or not. Okay. But these are commies, these are tyrants, and they want to control information. They want to censor people that don't agree with them or they believe is not true. Same thing happened with the vaccines during COVID. Same thing happened with all the stuff that we were right about, calling us liars, putting us on all these government lists. And it's just crazy. It's crazy that the American people accept this freaking bullshit.
Yeah, it's crazy. And this is what you mentioned earlier, Cozy. What happened, of course, so Trump brings this up, and the people that were waiting for him to talk about the 2020 in a massive way like this were a little bit disappointed because they expected something to be more like thunderous. Some analysis were actually very impressed and were arguing or pointing out it's not really up to Trump to he's just sort of presenting as other people who will be doing the actions. Murmurings out there are like, is the midterms going to happen, or are they going to find something to ground the population like a COVID 2.0? I don't like any of these discussions, but and we want to like be careful not to be fear mongers, but at the same time we need to sort of like watch the clues and see the patterns. And those of us who are watching the clues and seeing the patterns were able to predict that 2020 was going to come, right? Just as some people predicted 9/11. Now, just to wrap up with this point with the cozy, like if you see what I just posted, yeah, the governor of New Jersey, I believe it was the next day, was saying that 400 non-citizens voted. But now the big escándalo is that New Jersey is admitting it registered at least 6,600 non-citizens to vote, and apparently only 400 voted. I don't know. We don't know what story
Sounds like
is
a crock
real.
of bloop.
A lot of it sounds like much tremendo bullshit to me. What do you think, Mark?
I'm sorry, I missed that. I was trying to message on the chat for something. What was that last part?
Well, the last part was the revelation shortly after Trump's address to the nation that New Jersey registered non-voters, right? And
It was a
400
glitch. All right, it's just a
right,
little
of
glitch.
course. And that's the thing, like they always blame it on the glitch, but you know what's
Glitch.
interesting about that? Like these are the same people, this group of population that want to present us with more ways to get embedded with technology.
It's just a
Yeah, I mean,
glitch.
Jersey has been caught cheating several times. Several candidates have been arrested in the past. Jersey's not as bad as New York, but nobody in New York is getting arrested apparently. Like they cheat on so many levels. There's the campaign finance board that leaves candidates off the voter marketing material. It's supposed to be nonpartisan, but they don't include the Republican candidates there. I went through a whole battle to do my campaign video. They try to say I missed the deadline, and I replied to an email that was dated where I didn't miss the deadline. Then they went and put it together, but then they didn't post me on the website. And it's like, if I didn't notice they didn't have me on the website, like I didn't, Like, they don't realize that I was checking everything and trying to catch them for everything that they're doing. And
It's just a
but
glitch, Mark.
most,
You're overreacting,
yeah,
okay? Stop
of
getting
course.
emotional. It's just a glitch.
It's just a glitch that Republicans have to jump through hoops to get matching funds, and all these other glitches happen to all their donors
My question
where
is,
they're
why
trying,
doesn't
you know.
anybody get
But
arrested?
if you're a Democrat, everything runs smooth.
Why doesn't anybody get arrested is my question. This stuff keeps
That
happening. Not one
that's my
person in jail. People from Fauci all the way down to these crooks, these people that, you know, giving fake social security cards. How come we can't investigate? We could find anything we want here. You have a speeding ticket, you're crossing the street, there's cameras, they can detect anything. Okay? They can detect an apple from outer space, and they can detect these crooks, 6% fake social security. You can't look at their emails, you can't tap their phones. You mean
because
to
the
tell me you
people in
can't catch
charge
these
are the
people?
crooks. The
Blatant
people who are
corruption.
supposed to be doing the arresting are the crooks. The only people who get arrested are the good guys.
There you
They
go.
get
Just like the
blasted. They
Epstein
get
files.
blasted. I mean, Santos, he lied about the Jewish thing, but that's not jail time. Like, that doesn't mean he should lose his office. Like, there is a law, I think,
George
in
Santos.
another country that they want to pass for anyone who lies as a politician, can knowingly lies as a politician running for office or otherwise, can go to jail. I love that. That should be global. That should be the law of the land across the world. Like, if you knowingly lie as a politician on something like publicly and
Yeah.
relevant, you should be put in prison. That
Yeah,
should
no,
be
tar and
that
feather. That's what the law
that
should be. You get tar and
Right.
feathered.
And but for me, it's like the distinction for me is something that has to do with what your job and affecting, you know, like, are you stealing money? Are you taking money? Are you being beholden by pharma, as many of us suspect? And this is serious. At the end of this, we're not taking time on a Monday evening, week after week, to talk to you about things because we just, have nothing better to do. If mainstream was doing their job, I mean, actually, let me take that back. They are doing their job. They're doing what they're told.
Yeah.
And the squeaky wheels like us, we really made it impossible. I mean, even imagine how amazing we are as a group, as a collective, to all the lions out there, that no matter how many ways you guys were taking down the airwaves, you guys could just kept making up languages, codes, symbols to communicate. And that is one of the beautiful things, that you get creative, right? This is a time of a lot of frustration, but frustration opens doors to creativity and telling stories that haven't been told yet. And there are a lot of stories about what we've all experienced that have not been told that. And I'm saying that because I feel like if you feel like you need to write that book, do it. It's going to be healthy, healing. I've been thinking about putting some words to paper, because I've realized that I have trauma locked in from the things that we have experienced. When you see regular folks who have given so much to the city, or they are in service, and they are getting the shortest ends of the stick. Look, I haven't vetted this young lady, but a young lady was on online saying that this free healthcare doesn't benefit her in any way. She could use it, but she's a city worker, I suppose, and so she makes a little bit too much money, or I don't even know what the red tape is. But my point is, she doesn't benefit from maybe childcare that she needs, but the program that's being touted as this is free childcare, then I think that's another thing that needs to be investigated. Who is benefiting from all of these programs? Because I have a feeling that not all of them are Americans.
Yeah, I mean, illegal immigrants kind of drain the system with a lot, benefits and all that other stuff. So it's a really crappy system when it comes to any type of healthcare, where people, like, if you don't make money, you don't have a job, you get free health care. If you have a job and you work every day and you get sick, you can't afford health insurance, and you can't basically get the care that you need. Like, so you're rewarded for doing nothing by getting everything for free, and if you work, you're punished. Like, it's
And
just,
yeah,
it's
and that's what they have the mentality is like, why work? Why work too hard? You know, and it's just a crappy system.
But and I get it. Like there were reports in certain areas where people did the math, and they were like looking around. I was like, well, I've been trying to be in this environment looking for a job. I can't find a job. But if I take benefits and everything that comes with it, I make more money than if, and I got more money to spend and even chill than if I was looking for a job. Like I make more by staying home, to Mark's point. So
and then
the
you got to get off
incentive
the books money, which is often not legal, but
and stressful, and then what happens? What happens? What's something that has brought so many of us together? Nothing is more important than health, and many of us, because we're in this grind or we're at different phases in our lives, we're not really thinking about it. But I'm thinking about it every single day, just because when I just, like I've mentioned it in other shows, when I think about the amount of family and also friends and people that I know, in my family alone, just in Puerto Rico on one side, we have had 10 deaths. I think that's pretty high. And I'm not even counting my other side of the family and friends and people that I just keep hearing about. But yet we are moving on, and people are moving on, and they're going to work, and they're stuffing this grief down. And when people want to encourage you to keep on moving along, like if we just didn't live through the biggest human freaking PSD global phenomenon. Like I think that's nuts to not stop and acknowledge that we need to address this pain. And I'm not saying that we do this collectively, maybe some parts of it should be, but inside, address that grief that you carry before it takes a toll on your body, because health is the most important thing, no matter what we're covering here. And it will be something that we will cover more frequently in a segment at the end of the show. Before we switch to the DSA and socialists, do you gents, would you like to add anything?
I just want to add, when I met President Trump, we had a very brief conversation. I might have mentioned this before, but it was on the topic of election fraud. I said, we both have something in common. We're both from New York, and we both had our election stolen in 2020. He's shaking his head. He's like, yeah, it's horrible what they did. And, so hopefully people will go to prison, especially in New York. They definitely belong there. Statute of limitations for 2020, think that might have passed, but there's got to be something done. I mean, last year's election was, for the mayor election, was very recent, and if you start putting people in prison, then people will stop doing it. And they're recruiting. Since we're going to switch over to the Democratic Socialists of America, they are the ones who are young, active, and they are not afraid to break the law to win, to do what they think. They think they're fighting for a good cause. They think that they're going to create this utopia where everyone is equal and happy. And we've talked about this with communism. They're not the first young group of people to think this, and they won't be the last. It's usually, and I've quoted Ronald Reagan before, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant, it's that they know so much that isn't so. And also said, I was a liberal until I reached the age of reason. Some people never reach that age of reason. You have these, old ladies who are still liberal, and, whatever the case may be. But the young Democratic Socialists, they are the worst. They think they have been brainwashed by their teachers and the education system. They call Trump a fascist and a king
And they're
for no
violent. They're
logical
very
reason.
violent, these people.
They have no issue with violence. They think when they're beating up someone with a MAGA hat that they're beating up a racist, when meanwhile they're the evil ones. And the people, you are safer in a MAGA rally with a Biden hat, was the saying, than you are with a MAGA hat at a Biden rally. I mean, a Biden rally only has 4 people, so maybe that's not exactly true, but you get the point of it. Or a Black Lives Matter movement. Like, a Black Lives Matter hat could go into a MAGA event. They're not going to get beat up. You go into a Black Lives Matter with a MAGA hat back then, and you're going to get beat up because they think you're a racist. They don't understand. Make America Great Again is something Reagan said, something a lot of presidents have said, and there's nothing racist about it, but the media wants to switch it to Make America White Again and all the stupid crap that they did. We know what they did. It's the fake news. They're controlled, and they're full of crap. Passing it to you, Cafecito, to talk more about the Democratic Socialists of America, a.k.a. the young communist useful idiots.
Well, what I would like to add is that, well, first, I'd like to say that it is great to see the content creators and producers going out there and doing man on the street interviews, because this is how we learn. Like, it's great to have. I love boots on the ground content and I love watching it. So thank you. Keep that going. I love those conversations when they're asking people, like in New York, if what do they support? Like, this video that I saw, what do you like, socialism, or what do you support, socialism or capitalism? Pretty much most of the people in that video that we saw was people saying they support socialism. Why? Because of the way it's being presented to them, right? Now, when we go out there and we're saying this is dangerous, it's beyond the gatherings and community euphoria that people feel when they get together. That happens to us when we gather. It's beyond that. They're really are talking about wanting to dismantle government systems because they see the United States as not working. So not only are they to me, and I look at that as like enemies from within, with that are like mini Mamdani ites with barely no experience but wanting to change the world. We have some people who are very wealthy who are doing the same. People with a lot of money or a lot of influence, but they do not really understand that they're seeding evil with their intentions. So here are some clips with some DSA members.
Came here from Peru, really in the middle of the heat of the Shining Path. They were Maoist, communist guerrillas in Peru. So why did your family come to America?
The economic situation in South America and in Peru was in a really bad place. But I think that much of what we could say is responsible for that actually was the imposition of capitalism, and American imperialism in many cases is actually what brings immigrants to the U.S. coming out of Latin America. And
so they come here because they don't like the imposition of American imperialism in the country that they're in?
Gotcha, bitch.
Yes, in many countries.
So they come here.
In many countries, there have been undemocratic coups that have destabilized countries, and that's pushed people out.
Oh, well, you would think they would want to go somewhere that wasn't imposing that on them if that were the case. But, it's interesting because the Shining Path, if you look at what they wanted to overthrow the democratic institutions in Peru. They wanted to abolish capitalism in Peru. And we see some of those same threads in the DSA.
If you're a woman, how can you like a man like that? How can you like a man like that? Look the talking, the way he talks, the way he moves himself. Listen, this shit's gotta go. Okay? He just contradicted himself. He's telling you how the reason why his family left from Peru because of American imperialism, and then you run to America for help. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? You have a lobotomy. Your university, your college, wherever you went to get educated, gave you a lobotomy. Okay? You're brain dead. You got to look back at that video, and even if you show them that, they still can't, it doesn't click. It doesn't click because maybe that ponytail's wrapped too tight. Like American imperialism. I hate when men talk like that. Just kick them in the nuts.
Unfortunately, the area that we live is
My
filled with these
God.
human beings. Like, I remember
Fucking
the time that
losers.
I crashed the wrong event and I thought I was going to the one that was anti the open streets, and I went to the one that's pro. There I was creating havoc, and when the young man realized that I was there in the wrong place, he was like, "Oh my God, I don't like your tone. Don't you just want
Yeah.
these streets closed so that people could walk around with their babies and the strollers and and their puppies?"
I
And I
don't
was
think
like,
they
"No."
realize.
I said, "I don't think you realize that it's people like you that are acting like elite white supremacists." He's like, "Oh, why would you say that? Don't you want people to be healthier and with their bike lanes?" And I'm like, "Do you not see that this is still a working class neighborhood and they need their cars, and everything that you're doing is taking more of their parking spaces away? You have people looking for parking for hours every day in the morning and every day at night. You don't think that these people are tired?" So people like you who don't know the neighborhood, who just came in, to me, I see you guys as my greatest enemy. Let's just say we got into a pretty big argument, and I'm grateful that there's no video footage of that moment.
But all jokes aside, I just want to make a comment here, right? I don't think they realize, right? When somebody says, I believe in socialism, right? Or Marxism or democratic socialism or communism, whatever you want to put that label on. Let's stick with democratic socialism because that's what they think it is. Okay. When you're advocating for socialism, okay, you're advocating for giving government more power, okay? And you're giving less power to the individual. So I don't think it clicks to them because what if it's somebody they don't like Trump later gets into office, right? Are you willing to give him more power? Or would you like more individual power to make your own decisions and to have more power, less taxes? Why do you want government to have more power? That's literally the definition of socialism. Okay, you give the government more power, and you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna kick you right in your nuts, and you're gonna deserve it. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. And then when you tell them that way, it
It's
might click. Because like, wait, yeah, I don't trust government. Because a lot of them don't trust government. So why are you giving them power? Why are you giving the government power? Government needs to have
there
less power. The government needs to be
the
afraid of the people. Okay, it
the
shouldn't be that
major
we're afraid of government.
the major selling point, and the reason why that doesn't even click with them is because they want government to have more power to tax the rich more, and that's the whole selling point. Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, AOC, you name it, that's the playbook. The rich people have all this money, they should pay more so that you could have more. And it's a very, very simple minded selling point, and it makes sense to them, and that's all that matters to them. Everything else doesn't. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear about trickle down economics. They don't want to hear about you know they're not homeowners. They're not paying real estate taxes. They don't have jobs where they're paying a significant amount or any taxes at all. So they don't want to hear it. They don't care. It's rich guy bad, poor guy good, and that's it. And if you're a Republican, you're stupid because you're in favor of the rich. That's the way they see it. And they also think that you're racist for some reason. And they also think you're all the bad things. Like I said, with once again, let's go branding, all the alt right, far right, all the wrong right, xenophobic, transphobic, homophobic, all the phobics, tinfoil hat, QAnon conspiracy theorists. You're all the bad things if you don't
But
agree with
let's
them.
listen. The reason they won and they're getting they're getting a ground game and it's being successful for many reasons, right? Where the Republicans are not doing it and they're failing. One is that they're they're correctly identifying the problem, right? When they talk about affordability, they're correctly identifying it, but they don't have the answer. The answer is more kick to your, it's basically it's digging us down a deeper hole. Okay. And then the other thing is the whole Gaza thing. The reason why Mamdani won, even though this has nothing to do with the mayoral position, is because he talked about free Palestine. And free Palestine is a winning argument in New York City because there's a lot of diversity and people don't want war, okay? And they see an injustice in that. So that's where they capitalize on that. Okay, that's why they win. They just got to keep talking about free Palestine and they're going to keep winning. And that's why the DSA is growing and that's how they're mobilizing their people. They're finding the people who are free Palestine, they're mobilizing them, and they think you're a racist and you're, this and that. And listen, I'm not taking sides on this. I'm not telling you who's right and who's wrong. Uh, you know, there's so many ways, so many layers I can talk about this touchy situation, right? They've been fighting this war since the beginning of time. Okay? At the end of the day, we're both human beings. We're both brothers and sisters. Okay? There's Jewish people are amazing. Muslim people are amazing. It's their governments who are causing these problems. And I'm going to keep saying it again and again. And people get mad at me from both sides when I say this. Okay? We want peace. We want true peace. The people, again, most people are great people. Most people don't want to kill anybody. Most people don't want destruction in their homes. They don't want to destroy somebody else's home. They don't want to kill another person's kid with a missile. Okay, so we need to stop this polarization and go at the real enemies and point out who the enemy is, and it's the governments who are causing this problem. And until you address that problem, it's going to keep happening, and we're going to keep fighting each other. Okay?
And some
I've never had
another
a
promise.
problem. I've never had a problem. Seriously, never had a problem with a Muslim person, and I really never had a problem with a Jewish person. Never. I can't call the day where one of them gave me like an issue. Like I could say it's because he's Jewish, it's because he's Muslim. No problems. I grew up with both living in New York City, and I'm sure both of you have the same experience, and everybody listening to me has probably had the same experience.
Yep.
It's your
Yeah, New
greedy,
Yorker.
evil governments causing the problem. And don't message me, don't text me, don't freaking message me on Instagram telling me I'm wrong. Because you know deep down in your soul that I'm right and you've been brainwashed.
Don't at me, bro.
Something,
Please.
But
something.
No
that's
lawyer
another promise
messages.
that
No
Mamdani
doctor
didn't keep.
messages, please. You
Another
know who you
promise that
are.
Mamdani didn't keep, that he ran on, saying that he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he came to the United Nations in New York. Then he recently admitted that he knows he has no power to do that. But he lied during his campaign for all those free Palestine people that he was going to arrest Netanyahu when he came to the United Nations. So
But you know who
just
is the
wanted to.
problem, right? It's not the Muslims, it's not the Jews. The problem is these white liberals who come from Kentucky, who come from all sorts of places. I don't know where they're coming from, San Francisco, Wisconsin,
Spoiled trust
Oregon.
fund
They
baby
come
pieces of
here,
shit from all over.
they destroy everything, they raise our rents, uh, they destroy that the way of New York, right? These are not New Yorkers. They destroyed it. They made people weak. They made people cry babies. New York was tough. New York didn't complain. We didn't complain about the rain. Now they're scared of the rain. They tell us, stay home because it's puddling. It's rain. It snows a few sprinkles and they tell you to hide. Hide in your grandma's house. Don't come out. That's not New York tough.
It's 95 degrees. Stay inside with the AC. It's
And you
too
shouldn't get
hot. It's so
offended by other
hot.
people's
Oh no.
politics.
It's
You
so
shouldn't get
cold. It's
afraid. Look,
raining.
But why
this
It's
do
woman
you guys
cried.
cloudy.
all say
Listen,
those
This
cite
woman
those?
cried. This woman cried because I was on her block filling out petitions. She had a meltdown. A grown woman, 50 years old, 55 years old, has a meltdown. You shouldn't have meltdown over politics. That means you're unstable and you need medication. You need SSRI drugs. You need something. You need something. You need it.
Well, what doesn't help?
Nobody needs it, but I'm just saying, you know that.
So,
Yeah.
Cozy, I would like to respond to a couple of points that you brought up,
Okay.
because I absolutely agree. How are we are fight like to get into fights about over something that has been existing, a war that has been existing longer than any of us have been alive, right? That and I we all want peace, but then how can any of us move forward in any conversation if the way this argument has been divided has fallen in oh, if you're the left, then that means that you need to support Gaza and say and advocate for free Palestine. Or if you're right on the right one, absolutely you need to support Israel. And I don't think that human beings like being told what to do or how to think on in any setting. We have independent thoughts and minds. And I agree with you, Cozy. I want peace, and my focus here is on New York. And disappointed fully in Mamdani because he seems to be more interested in just being this big fluff like rooster cock being like stick to being the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
You said that you weren't going to that you were going to be the mayor of New York, but you seem to be putting and meddling in affairs that are not of New York. So I find them to be yet another contradiction. Before I play this next video, I want to read something, a post that Viral News shared earlier today. New York City politics has been feeling like a subscription service where the campaign version and the actual product are two completely different things. Mayor Mamdani campaigned on free grocery stores. Turns out it's actually a grocery store with items about 30% cheaper. He campaigned on free buses, and somehow, after he got elected, I've never seen more bus enforcement in my life. I concur, meaning sometimes bus will stop and like 3 to 4 to 7 people, I don't know if they have guns, but they look terrifying, all of a sudden get on the bus and they want to see evidence of whether or not you paid the bus fare, which, you know, when's the last time you given us a receipt? Like, I'm not going to be opening my my smartphone with all the cameras, putting in my details to show whether or not I paid. I think that's disappointing that we are seeing that under the Mamdani rule. He promised to freeze all rents, and then all of a sudden there's a 40% rent increase that happened. Then there was the promise to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, only to later admit the mayor of New York City doesn't actually have the power to do that. At this point, New York City voters need a campaign translation. Free might mean discounted. Free buses might mean more enforcement, and I'll arrest someone might mean I'll make a statement. Very great words. Thank you, Viral News, for posting that. All right, so I'm going to share this video so that you can see that, this is the DSA co-chair saying what they believe and what they would like to do with the government.
You just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of DSA. They lose their seats?
Well, the Senate is an anachronistic institution.
What a pig.
So the levels of stupidity have no boundaries. It's mind-boggling, like
Yeah, no
how
checks and balances. Just get rid of the Senate. Like,
you're just complete chaos is what we want. That's going to be a great. That's a great solution to everything. Long-term plan, though. Long-term
prisons.
plan.
Yeah, prisons. Are you kidding me? It's inhumane. Prisons are inhumane. Let's just allow murderers and rapists to just pillage and run around. These
If you
people
want to
should
make
absolutely be exiled. You should not be in this country if you believe that. You're a threat to this country. You're a cancer to this country, and you need to go. What happened with those rules, Mark? Back in the days, you know, If you were,
Yeah,
if
the
they told you were
Communist
a
Control
communist,
Act in the
they would throw you out of this country so fast. They don't do that anymore. That needs to come back. If you're a communist, you need to go. And I believe in free
the,
speech. I believe in free thoughts. But when you're a communist, you're a threat to this country and the way of its life, the way it moves. And I
the Communist
100% will
Control
double and
Act,
triple
I
down
think
on that.
Communist Control Act of I think 1954, maybe 53. I don't remember the exact year. Bipartisan support. Both the Democratic and Republican Party realized the threat of communism, and you're not supposed to hold any level of office, and you cannot be an elected official if you're a communist.
I agree.
But they I believe in Minnesota in like 72, 73. Because I looked into this because my opponent in the city council election was a card carrying communist of the Soviet Union.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I believe it was Minnesota in the 70s. I think they ruled it unconstitutional on a state level. It's never been enforced. The law is in place, the Communist Control Act. It was passed by Congress and the Senate, but it's never enforced. And I do think it's unconstitutional, to be honest with you, because it is still free speech. You're still supposed to allow, no matter how stupid your opinions
Yeah.
are,
And I
you're
agree.
supposed
Listen,
to
I
have the right.
agree. Listen, if you're a communist, that's fine. You could be a communist. But when you're running for public office, that's what I really mean. Is if you're running for public office, you shouldn't be able to. You shouldn't be able to get that seat because you're undermining the Constitution and you're not, that's not on the oath, right? When you swear an oath, you're swearing an oath to the US Constitution, which is in contradiction, right? It's in
To
conflict
what you do.
to communism, where it's no private property, no free speech. Okay, government owns things. Okay, no checks and balances. We don't want that. And if you want that, there's plenty of places you can go. One is North Korea. You could go to China, or you can go to hell. Pick your place.
They won't be making good monies there. Don't you see that some of these
Yeah,
humans, they preach equality, the opportunity for everybody to leave and make it to the same place at the same time? Who wants that? No one ever who played a sport or had a competitive spirit. I would be bored with myself if there was nothing to compete. Like I remember a woman once berated me because I liked the spirit of competition. She looked at that as being like a toxic male quality.
and
I
why
mean,
is it
this is,
always
I mean,
rich?
why? Like,
Right.
how is this even a conversation? You
And why
know?
is it coincidentally? Why is it always rich white people who push socialism? Why is that?
And then they become millionaires, right? Because look at track the DSA members,
AOC,
like AOC, like Elon
Omar.
Omar, some of the people that are Raul Rivera has even like shown in his videos, like these people, and to me that's the biggest hypocrisy. I have, and I know, mentors, activist mentors that will give everything and even their shirt off the back just to support and help community. This is not that type of activism. This is champagne activism. Some of these people who are saying like, oh yeah, like no jails, no prisons, uh have you lived in the hood? Have you ever been walking outside at 3 o'clock after school and had to dunk because gunshots were happening? Like
Yeah,
this is like
I've
they tell on themselves and how innocent their worldview is by the things that they support. That's my point. That's my point. We can't, as Americans, we can't continue to keep supporting this passively
but
because
it's
they don't
Didn't
racist.
look at this passively. This is
It's
to
didn't
racist.
them
Benny
real.
didn't Benny Johnson point out how ALC was from a rich white neighborhood in like
Yeah.
Westchester or something, and she claims she's from the Bronx and all that, and changes her accent and tries to
And
Yeah,
we've
and they
Oh
been there.
man,
No one has seen her in the Bronx, but people see her everywhere. Why? I mean, she's gonna be running for president. It
no, she's
looks
not.
like it.
No, that's
There's
just talk. She's not going to run for president.
I
she's
hope she does
raising
because she's gonna lose so badly.
she is raising so much money, and this
I
Yeah,
has
hope
been
she
a
because
does.
rumor since last
but
year. I hope
she
I'm
could
wrong.
use that money for another federal position. She could use that for Congress
And that is frankly
reelection. The
unacceptable.
thing is, if she runs for president or U.S. Senate or any other position, she has to give up her Congress seat, which is a lock for her to win, and she's not going to do that because if she loses the presidential race, she will not have a seat for at least 2 years, and then she could run again. But
That's
I
a
don't
good
think she
point.
wants to give up. I don't think she wants to give up her seat, so she's not going to run for Schumer's seat because she might lose that, and she's definitely not going to run for president because she will definitely lose that.
Yeah, that's those are great points. And the other thing is, if she does run, though, there is danger, right? So I don't really want her to run because the more she gets exposure, the more she talks on the main stage, right? People still listen to her, right? She's in Congress, but imagine getting that airtime of like running for president. She's going to influence a lot more stupid young women and young men who believe this shit and get inspired by her, even though it's all wrong and all fake and all unsupported stuff that doesn't build, but rather is what's the I'm trying to make an analogy of it, but it's like building a building that's not, it's not, doesn't have the right structure, that's just going to fall apart, right? And it's
Here, here's an
y- y-
analogy for you. It will be like that Billy Madison scene where the teacher says afterwards, "Everyone here in this room is now dumber by listening to it." That's what happens with AOC every time she speaks. And if you
no,
give
but
her a
there's
bigger
people who
audience,
think that she's
she will
intelligent.
make. They think she's a genius. I know.
There's people
They
who
think
think
that,
she's so intelligent. I mean, I
and
had a
a lot of
friend who
them,
believed that.
are soy boys who like think she looks good and like get brainwashed by stupid as shit.
We were
But the
on the
thing
bus,
is,
bro.
like, look, but that's my point, that beyond there being a left and right divide, and us talking about, the socialists and the, let's say, Republicans, digging deeper into the culture is, when we complain the Republicans really are missing big moments here in the city and
Hmm.
big opportunities. And they're also missing opportunities where there's like cultural curiosities. Some of the people that we have, like one of the videos that I posted on Instagram on Cafecito Break was "Words Matter," and that was a quote by speaker Julie Manin, who was at a press conference just asking people that they have a responsibility to tone down the language. And I agree with that. Now, the other day, I wanted to go to a rally in support of, unfortunately, we have some crime spikes in the city, even though people continue to tell us that crime is low. But there were two, was it stabbings, and by a Latino man, and he screamed "Alu Akbar," and they were wanting to charge him with a hate crime. I don't have the latest details on that, but there was a rally, and when I saw parts of that rally and how some people were expressing themselves, I wanted to run away for the hills and keep on running, because people get so upset and so vile with their language as they're expressing their disgust, and then they aim it at, they just throw words around, and they just put people, a collective people, in these groups. And I don't think that helps anything. I don't think that brings anybody closer together. If I am neutral and I'm looking at that and I want to run for the hills, where we've been saying, like, people need to work on their messaging. I think there's a responsibility when you have followers, when you're being funded by actual, like, the what's considered mainstream media and independent media. You have a responsibility of how you express yourself. And then each time we come up here, yeah, we have found languages, but we're not out here cussing folks out and making people feel terrible
Maybe
about
a
their
little.
existence. But we're
Yeah.
Brooklyn. You see, we're it's like we're being natural in the essence of Brooklyn, and I freaking love that.
Yeah, and how is that going to help? And great points, Rose Angel. It's true. I mean, how is it going to help when you say "F Palestine" and you're raising flags, right? How do you think that's ever going to end up? What do you think the result's going to be? And what do you think the opposite side of that? If you're saying "F Israel," right? How do you think this is going to go? Is this going to turn out well? Is your plan to fix the situation, or is your plan to keep alienating yourselves and polarizing yourselves so you can guarantee that there'll never be peace? Okay, that's
See,
what we have to think about. So once you say that, you're guaranteeing that you will never meet in the middle and try to at least come up with a resolution. It's like saying it's you're effing yourself. When you say F Palestine, you're effing yourself. When you say F Israel, you're effing yourself. You are guaranteeing that your children will never live in peace.
but the decision's all on you, Cozy. That's why people get mad, because you're not choosing a side, and your decision of who you support is going to make all the difference in the Middle East.
And now another thing I want to present before I forget this idea. I was thinking the other day, the more that Trump talks about, and it's not just Trump and the right side, right? The more we talk about communism and saying all the bad things about it, what this is doing, okay? And I don't know if it's by design by the New World Order or it's just the consequence of pointing out, you know damn well whatever Trump says, the other side's going to hate to the extreme, right? And if he hates something, they're going to love it. If he hates some, I mean, and vice versa. If he loves something, they're going to hate it. Hate something, they're going to love it, right? The more he talks about communism, my thought was like, oh my God, now these people who hate him and have TDS syndrome, they're going to embrace communism even more. They're going to say, I didn't like communism, but guess what? He hates communism. I'm going to love it. And this is how we further bring these radicals and increase the radicalization by just by him saying communism is bad. Okay, this is a problem, and I'm not saying it's not bad to point it out. I point it out all the time because I'm passionate about my hatred for communism, because I know at the end it brings death, disease, and poverty. Okay, it brings a violation of human rights, it brings an abuse of the individual, and I'm against that, because we've all been through it. We've all been through the fact that we were not served in restaurants, we were fired from our jobs, fired from an education, and that is because of government overreach, government power. And if you keep giving these people power, this is what they're going to do to you, and worse. So yes, I hate communists. I hate communism. But the other side sees that and says, I'm going to love communism. And now we're going to increase, you're going to see a big increase in this communistic, way of life, and the radicals, basically the DSA. This is why they're growing. They're growing exponentially. And this is the problem. And the other problem is that the Republicans are not doing a good job at all in their messaging, and they're not doing a good job at doing what the youth is doing. The DSA has all the time in the world because they're young and they're dumb and they have all the time in the world. Okay? Young Republicans don't have that passion. They're not going to do that, and they don't, they're not getting involved. So
Well, I
the
think
problem
you're
is we have to
speaking.
inspire, hold on. We have to inspire the youth, which we're not doing, because the message is not resonating with the youth. And we have to find some way, some channel to teach. And I'm not telling you Republican is the answer, because I don't give a shit about that either. They're all fake too. They're all fake. They're all fake what they're doing. Okay, this is all a takeover. But what I'm saying is, if you believe in the freedom and you believe in the Constitution, we have to inspire the youth to love the Constitution, to be able to go out and defend it. And we're not doing that effectively. Let's find a way to do that.
Yeah, I think when you say the youth, and it's the perspective of someone in New York, and when you say the Republican Party isn't doing the right job, that's from the perspective of New York, and the New York Republican Party is nowhere near as strong as the Republican Party in other parts of the country. So New York is considered a lost cause to a lot of people, and including the people in New York who don't want to vote. So it's it's you look at Turning Point USA and PragerU and all these youth organizations that do things all over the country. Yeah, I think they've made a huge impact over the years.
Yeah.
Still,
Thank you for
traditionally,
clarifying. Yeah, no, thank you for explaining that because you're right. My brain is focused on New York, so like that's why I'm talking like that. But you're right. It's all different, and it's just the fact that we're in New York, we're feeling this tyranny. But go
but
on.
with Republicans at the same time, like even in Nevada, the majority of the people are older, and the Nevada, the Clark County Republican Club, but that's in Clark County, which is Las Vegas, which is also predominantly liberal. So, but it's the older people who are more active than the young people in the Republican Party. The young people, like the New York Young Republican Club and even Turning Point, a lot of them like to go to the parties with James O'Keefe and stuff like that, but they don't want to actually go and knock on doors and stuff. And there are a lot of them that are. So, but a lot of them are just all talk, and we do need more of the youth to be. I don't want to say like the Democratic Socialists of America, because those people are just pure evil. They will cheat to win. They will use violence, and they think that they're on the right side of history when they're not. So, one thing I want to add before I'll wrap things up on my end, the messaging. You're right about the messaging when it comes to Republicans. Like, you have to really educate people in the right way. You have to have a better argument when it comes to communism, when it comes to the taxing the rich and the increasing the minimum wage. You have to explain the hyperinflation that happens when you raise the minimum wage. You have to explain that when you tax the rich and the corporations leave, like how we lost Amazon and AOC's district. We don't get the opportunity to debate in New York anymore. The Democrats don't want to debate us. They have no reason to. They're cheating, they're winning, and they don't care. They don't want to debate. They don't want to waken people. I was able to get some debates when I was running in a very close election, and they learned their lesson from that because I shitted on my opponents. But most people don't do that. And, when you talk about Mamdani or AOC or Bernie Sanders, they are very good public speakers. They get their message across. It's a very simple message. Like I said, tax the rich more, but everything they say makes sense. They don't sound like idiots. We know that they're idiots, but most people don't give a shit about politics. They want to go to work. They want to go out to the bars on the weekends. They want to have a good time. Anytime somebody talks about politics, they'll regurgitate what they saw on Comedy Central or a reel that they saw on their Instagram or TikTok feed, and that's what they'll go with their information by. And the AOC is showing up on TV shows like Billions on Showtime and other movies and stuff, and she's just so widely known that when she comes across and gets her message across, that's what they're listening to. And it makes sense to them. And unless you intelligently explain to them why she's wrong, they're just not going to listen to you. And we need a better job of not just saying how communism is bad and how China killed all these people and all these people died from communism. And it's always been tried, but really get the message across that these people in China thought the same thing that you're thinking now. These people in Russia and the Soviet Union, the young people, they thought the same thing that you're thinking now. And they led this revolution, and they led to their own destruction.
But
And
Mark,
that's
it
what,
works in the Norwegian countries.
Okay,
and it
I got
doesn't,
one
and you
more
have to have a
story.
rebuttal for that.
I got one more story and then final comments because I'm melting over here. I'm in the New York City
Yeah, I'm
heat.
melting too. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, so DSA targets New York City public school kids in radical takeover. The DSA Socialists of America are plotting a radical takeover of New York City public schools, with comrades admitting they want to mold new generation of baby Bolsheviks. The Post has learned. Maureen Fathom, Yet another professor working for CUNY School called for kids to be educated in a democratic socialist frame and to be taught the godfathers of communism, Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, despite their writing inspiring some of the most murderous dictators in history, from Stalin to Mao. We need to overhaul the curriculum in a class consciousness frame. The curriculum as a whole needs to be relooked at, re-envisioned, and reframed, the CUNY Kingsborough Community College professor said. So just to give you a little synopsis that, yeah, this is further proof that this is obviously spilling into our schools. And now let me play this video, which is a remix of a press conference, city-owned grocery stores, which the plan is for 5. Mamdani earlier today gave a press conference in which he said that the produce was going to be 30% what the going rate is and set every month. And I remixed it with my interview of what New York City has come to know is Mamdani's greatest troll, which is Raul Rivera.
And that is frankly unacceptable, which is why city government is stepping in to make people's lives more affordable.
Nothing's free in America.
We know that for many New Yorkers, 30% at the grocery store means something very different. Since 2019, food prices have soared at grocery stores around the country by roughly 30%, in fact. Talk to shoppers around the city, and you'll often hear the same frustration. Wages have not kept up.
Nothing's free.
Making matters even worse, some corporations have built out technology that allows for something called surveillance pricing, collecting personal data to charge some people more than others for the same carton of eggs, for the same gallon of milk.
Good point, but should this be handled another way?
All of this leaves too many New Yorkers feeling like groceries are out of reach.
And when the money dries up, it's going to dry up, and this is going to be nothing but a failure, right? But it might get them reelected. It might get them reelected.
And that is frankly unacceptable, which is why city government is stepping in to make people's lives more affordable. Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. This core set of goods will include all fresh produce, meat, and seafood, along with 20 other essential items like cheese, milk, and bread. Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line. Not for our seniors living on fixed incomes, nor for the parents who rely on a regular supply of apple slices to keep toddler tantrums at bay. Now, can we all see this incredible example of produce in my hand? Now, you will see these plantains here, so for anyone wondering how much these beautiful plantains might cost, you can use this QR code or head to grocery.nyc to access our policy report. I'm going to demonstrate exactly what that means. Ladies and gentlemen, the QR code does work. You can see this here. There you can learn more about our city-owned grocery store program, including the 30% discount. 30% off adds up.
Nothing's free. Nothing's free. Nothing's lower cost. Somebody's paying for it. It's coming out of somebody's pocket.
All right, so now you look at that and you say, how could you hate on that? Okay, it sounds good. And I said that before this video even came up, that they sound good. Every single one of them sound great to anybody that's looking. And you know what? That does sound good. Now let's see, there's 5 locations throughout New York City. There are millions of people in New York City. Those 5 locations, let's see how long the lines are for that. let's take a throwback to communist bread lines. Let's take a throwback even more recently to when they opened up that other store with the temporary free food thing that ran out within a few days. Like, are they going to be able to keep stock? Are they going to run out of stock? Are they going to, how long are the lines going to be? Like, you got to go and see that this is, how about the grocery stores around there that are going to go out of business now because they can't compete with the pricing?
That's the plan.
The individual, there's nothing, the plan is so that it's not, no, you own nothing. You do not own a business. The government owns every single business. The government controls your transportation because you won't be able to have a car anymore. And we didn't get to talk about the Easy Pass thing, and we're already in overtime, but that happened really quickly. That's going on all over the country. They got rid of paying cash and getting the toll over with. They mail you something, you forget about it. You got a shit ton of fees. Next thing you know, your car is towed for a few $100s worth of tolls that turns into thousands and late fees and fines. So it's all destruction by design. It's all to use the useful idiots that make this stuff sound great. Free this, free that, cheaper this, cheaper that. Bigger minimum wage leads to hyperinflation. Tax the rich means the rich leave and you get no taxes. They don't understand what the cause and effect is of these actual policies. This grocery store sounds great. I'll be the first to admit that sounds like a great idea. It's not going to work out because it's going to cost in the long run.
It's not going to end well, people.
I wanted to just read a statement made by on X by JC Polanco, who is an attorney and a professor, and he made this statement: New York City taxpayers will spend at least $70 million to build government-run grocery stores, plus at least $4 million per store annually to operate them. Regardless of the talking points, they'll compete directly with the bodegas, the delis, the corner fruit markets that already operate on razor-thin margins. Government shouldn't be using taxpayer dollars to undercut the small businesses that already serve our neighborhoods. What a shame. Municipal grocery stores have generally been tried in places with real food deserts or communities that lost their only grocery store. Several have struggled financially and required ongoing public support. No major U.S. city has successfully built a network of government-run grocery stores to compete directly like this. It is an idea out of the Cold War era.
And who needs 30% off when you got the five-finger discount? That's what New Yorkers do now anyway, right? That's why you got a lot of businesses that closed in the first place. Let's go do that at the government-run one.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand there are absolutely New Yorkers, like he was at the recent Dominican Day parade in the Bronx, and there were people who saw him and they respond to him like they've seen Michael Jackson. Hysterical excitement. And then
somehow,
there
some
were
way.
also others, and there's footage out there. We wanted to present it to you today, but we've run out of time, of people calling out Mamdani at the parade because they don't like him. There's a subset of a lot of New Yorkers, maybe more than half, that are very frustrated with Mamdani. They're making their voices heard, but will you vote at the polls? Are you going to vote Governor Hochul in when there's another choice? I don't know, right? So much
I
to
think
say.
Governor Hochul is the way to go if you want to continue taking New York to hell, that is. But, you know.
Closing comments. something. Closing comments.
Cozy, you got your
Apparently, he
health
likes
thing with the water.
mofongo.
Before we forget, you had the health tip with the health story with the water.
We'll keep that for next time.
All right, there you go. If you want to know more about Cozy's wellness, make sure you're following him on Instagram. You're going to hear more about that story and other things. You can follow me at MarkForNY. We are every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or at least most Mondays. We try to. All different schedules, all different things going on in life, but we try to be here to expose the bullshit, the tremendo bullshit, as Cafecito likes to say. And I already had several final thoughts, so I'm just going to end off with that. And hopefully you guys like, share, comment, spread the word. Tell your mother not to be communist. Tell your daughter not to be communist. Tell everyone you know not to be communist.
That's what I was gonna say. Teach your kids about the dangers of communism. Remember that commercial? This is your brain. This is your brain on communism. Any questions?
Yep.
Everyone, thank you for joining us. We are lining up some good shows. We may probably take a little break in August, but stay tuned next week. We have an exciting guest who is going to join us, and his opinions are known in NYC, so we look forward to bringing to you folks that are connected to this New York City experience and can keep speaking about this beautiful city that we love so much. Thank you for tuning in for our New York Freedom Fighters space. We love you guys. Learn more. Follow our handles, and if you want to check out our Substack, cafecitobreak.org. All right, everybody. Have a good one.
Good night.
Bye.
Communism kills.
Bye.